All right, so we are going to kick this off. In this training, we are going to go over how to build your AI customer success team in less than 25 minutes using the templates that I'm about to provide you. It's going to be super, super simple. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So, um, you can connect, regardless of what AI agent you're using, you can connect it to the GoCSM MCP. This works for Perplexity, it works for ChatGPT, it works for Claude. In this case, I use Claude, so we're going to be using Claude as an example in this video. However, if you have any questions on how to use your exact AI agent to connect it to GoCSM to get these recurring reports, I'm happy to answer them. Feel free to reach out. You can also Google it. Usually it's typically pretty simple to do it. Today's session is going to be super beneficial for CSMs, for client success directors, as well as for agency owners, partners, and executives. And the reason for that is because the reports that I'm going to give you are going to refer to all three of these hats. Some of the reports are going to be for CSMs. A couple of them are going to be useful to the CSD, and then all of them can be useful to a partner executive if they want to get a clear report on what's happening with client success within your agency. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen, and I have a super friendly Google Doc here that I've prepared. I'll give a link below this video in this to this Google Doc so you can grab it, make a copy of it, use it, edit the templates in here. The document has multiple tabs. With the reports, we're going to start with the prep tab. So in terms of prep, my advice is connect your AI agent to the GoCSM MCP. Obviously, you need that if you want to pull data from GoCSM, but also connect your AI agent to your agency's high-level MCP. And in this doc, I've hyperlinked both of these to the support articles on how to link each of these up to your AI agent. So let's start with the GoCSM MCP. You can go to this URL and grab the server endpoint. It's only one URL that you need to worry about. You can go to Claude, and from Claude, you can go to Settings, Connectors, add a custom connector, and name it GoCSM MCP, and add this URL like this without any spaces before or after it to here. I'm just going to add a little differentiator for me, and we are going to add it in here. At this point, it's going to prompt you to actually log in. Now, I'm going to be using one of our other agencies' accounts for this. This is one of our partner agencies. Just to show you as an example, you're going to click connect. It's going to prompt you to log in. I will actually log in with my personal Claude account that I use. Of course, all the 2FA is here to protect my account. So I will accept this. This was me. And it is going to log me in to Claude. And if you're already logged in, it's going to take you straight to this account. So at this point, you're going to want to log into your GoCSM account. I'll just grab this code real quick. And in here, you need to create, number one, a private integration token from your GoCSM account. So you're going to go to settings for that. And under settings, you're going to go to private integrations and create a new integration. You can name it whatever identifier you want to put here, hit next, and select all scopes. Go to the bottom, hit create, and we will get the private integration token here. At this point, we can go back to this tab and paste the private integration token. And the second part is your GoCSM subaccount ID, which again, it's super easy to grab. You just go to your account and you grab the alphanumeric value right after location. I'll select it, Control C, Control V in here, and hit connect. That's it. It is now connected. I'll hit open the desktop app, and then this will automatically populate and show all the tools that GoCSM has access to. Now, once you're on this screen, I highly recommend switch your read-only tools to always allow. You can go through all the tools to see what access GoCSM has. At the bottom, you'll see the write delete tools. For this, I recommend switching all of these to always allow, except for send a message to a user. And you can also keep this as needs approval, run a high-level workflow so that it doesn't bother you when it needs approval, but also here it's going to ask for approval before messaging a user or before executing a workflow to make sure that it doesn't go rogue and all of a sudden decide to message somebody something that you didn't need them to actually message. At this point, your GoCSM MCP is fully connected. And if we go to connectors, you will see GoCSM MCP, in my case, MS, connected here. Now, the second part in Claude is to set up a scheduled task. You can go to scheduled, click on new task, and set up manually. At this point, we're going to go back and refer to that Google Doc that I was sharing a second ago, and we will start with the daily CSM report. Now, this is a template, and you will need to edit some of the values here. For example, the value here for agency name, this is pretty simple. An example, you just put your agency name and delete the templated value. Down here, so the purpose of this report in the task at the very top, identify clients who are at risk, identify why those clients are at risk, collect additional context and data from the GoCSM MCP regarding the client's activity. And then this one, number 4, is optional if you have your agency's MCP connected. So this is if you have your GoHighLevel agency's MCP connected, which I highly recommend. Use your agency's GHL MCP name. So maybe it's XYZ agency MCP, for example, to collect additional data on this client. So what it's going to be able to do at this point is go and check out your client's subaccount. So when it identifies a client who's at risk from the GoCSM MCP, it's going to go into your agency and look at your agency's account and the communication you've had with that client before. Additionally, it can also go inside of the subaccount for your client and see what everything looks like in there. So if certain workflows are turned on, if appointments are getting set, it's going to be able to double check some of the information and collect additional context, especially in respect to the next point, which is number 5, suggest a plan of action to address the churn signals and red flags for that particular client, obviously. So next, you need to give him, her, it context. In this square bracket, I've described what type of context you need to give it. So enter context pertaining to your agency and clients. The purpose of this is to give the AI enough context so that it knows what information to pull from both MCP connectors. My apologies, I'll change this, from both MCP connectors. For example, our agency helps car dealers with generating new leads and retargeting their existing leads with marketing campaigns. We expect clients to log into the platform to respond to emails and SMS, send email and SMS campaigns, manage their ads, call new leads, etc. Don't skimp on the context here. The more context you give it that's going to be useful to the MCP, the better of a job it's going to be able to do for you. The next part is the KPIs to watch. The most important retention KPIs in terms of executions and time spent. Here in the square bracket, I've given you clear instructions. Enter on a new line each of the following that are important to you. login activity, workflow executions, new contacts added, appointments booked, website funnel visits, forms filled, custom menu link visits, payment process, calls made, all of these, but the ones that are actually important to you. So you're going to enter them like this: workflow executions, new contacts added, etc., etc., etc. Make sure to add them. And then once you've added them, delete this part so that the AI is not getting confused by the value in the square brackets. Next, you're going to be defining what does a red flag look like. You're going to list all of your red flag definitions in this format. For example, X%, 30% drop in new contacts added in the last 15 days compared to the previous 15 days. 50% drop in booked appointments last 15 or 7 or however many days compared to the previous period. Key users stop logging in or log in much less frequently over the last X amount of days, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you can enter in a new line and then just type out your red flags here, each on a new line. Once you've done that, select all of this and delete the instructions to make sure that your AI agent doesn't get confused. Next is the KPI date period. So you can define the date period under red flag definitions. You can also define it under KPI date period here. And all you need to do is just replace this value with the same number. So if you're looking at the last 7 days compared to previous 7 days, or last 15 days compared to previous 15 days, whatever, however you want to set it for the AI. Now, this is a daily CSM report, so I would suggest starting off with 7 days. Although if you notice that you're getting too many at-risk clients, you can always switch to 15 or 30 days to watch for like the real at-risk clients and identify them and get the AI agent to actually deliver on those. And the final part here is the report structure. Number one, you're asking the AI to list accounts who are showing red flags. Number two is for each account showing red flags to list a summary of the red flags that they're showing, and B, suggestions on how to save this account and prevent them from churning. And here as a subheading, we have the report structure. You don't have to actually delete this instruction in the square brackets. This is for the AI to see what a report structure looks like. Account one name, red flags listed as bullet points, and then suggested course of action. Enter here. So the AI is going to say suggested course of action, reach out to the client, say this, book them on a call, or go into their account and activate a specific core workflow. Again, for this to be exactly what you need it to be, you need to make sure that the context field up here is as detailed as possible so that it knows what's important to your agency, and then the red flag definition so that it knows exactly what you consider a red flag. Every agency model is separate, is different, so you want to make sure that you list all the details regarding your agency model in here. The second report, so before we move on to the second report, I want to actually show you how to do this. This is super simple, especially in Claude. You're just going to copy this after you've updated it to be the final version of the report. You're going to go into a scheduled task like we did a moment ago. You're going to paste it in here, review it one more time to make sure you don't waste tokens, and then we can name this daily GoCSM report or daily CSM report. In my case, it already exists, so I'm just going to name it daily CSM report 1. And for the description, which is required, you can just put generate a daily CSM report for XYZ agency. At this point, you're going to select the default model. Now, Fable is only available for a few more days as of this video. However, you can use Opus or you can use Sonnet if you have limited credits. I do recommend always using Opus, especially for something as important as a CSM report. It's not going to take that many credits, but if you're worried about credit usage, you can stick with Sonnet 5 or Sonnet 4.6. And finally, the frequency. This is a daily report, so you want to switch it to daily. And if you want to wake up to this report, have it run in the morning before you've actually gotten to your desk. Now, one more final thing before I close off this report and save it is these reports will be delivered to you inside of the AI agent account. So if you're a client success director and you want your CSMs to receive this report directly, you can add another step to this prompt. For example, if you want your these reports to show up in Asana or in ClickUp or anywhere else, there's connectors for all these tools. So you can simply look up whatever tool you're using that you want to consolidate all these reports to. You can look up how to connect your AI agent to that tool's MCP. So for example, you can put finally deliver this report in Asana by creating a new task, naming it after today's date, and adding this report to the description of this task. This way, it's going to actually add it to Asana as long as you have the MCP connector. So use the Asana MCP connector for this. So it will actually push it to Asana. In this case, I'll hit save, and every day this will run at 5 a.m. Now, if you want, you can always click the three dots, click run now, and it will generate the report live for you with data about your agency and right away deliver a list of clients who are at risk, why they're at risk. And if you have both MCPs connected for HighLevel and for GoCSM, it's going to deliver a very credible plan of action for you. And of course, the better of a model you run, the better that plan of action will be. And after a while, if you decide that the AI is really credible in its assessment and reporting and plan of action structuring, you can always update the prompt to have the AI actually do the work as opposed to your CSM doing it. So if it comes down to reaching out to a client via email or SMS, you can actually prompt it to reach out to the client and try to book a success call with your team to save that client from churning. Now, I'll pause this for now, and then let's go over the other reports. We just went over the daily CSM. The next one is the weekly CSD report. CSD is Client Success Director. This is a weekly report. It's going to compare the last 7 days to the previous 7 days for the immediate delta, but read every finding against the trailing 4-week trend before deciding whether it matters. This means it's not just going to take the last 7 days, it's going to actually look at the last 4 weeks and then compare it to the last 7 days. A single week of movement is a signal only if it agrees with or accelerates the longer trend. Do not raise a systemic alarm on 1 week of data alone. In the task, we tell it, use the GoCSM MCP connector to produce a weekly client success director level report for agency name. You have some dynamic variables in here that you need to manually replace. And this is the main difference between a weekly CSD and a daily CSM report. A CSD's job is to identify systemic issues. So the purpose is to surface systemic patterns across the entire book of business so that leadership can make structural decisions on a weekly rhythm. Specifically, assess how the agency's client base has moved this week versus last week, and whether the move continues or breaks the 4-week trend. Identify patterns and clusters in churn and risk signals. Quantify revenue exposure and how it's shifted. Diagnose root causes. So distinguish customer behavior problems from product adoption, onboarding, or coverage problems. And recommend a small number of high leverage systemic interventions. So this is where it's going to recommend a plan of action, a course of action for you. And then optional, if you have your agency's MCP connected, use the MCP name here to enrich the analysis with delivery side data. So campaign volume, ad spend, fulfillment activity, communication with the client. It's going to check all of this to test whether the risk correlates with what your team is or isn't delivering. Under context, again, I have an example here for you, and I have a description of the context. This is going to be similar to before. However, in this case, what I would suggest is include information that pertains to your client's onboarding process. So what do you expect your clients to do during onboarding? What is your onboarding process? What does it look like? Your rough client count? What are your plan tiers? Any recent changes? If you've made a recent change to your onboarding process, if you've done a product migration, if you've introduced a new service, if you've changed something about the delivery or the service, anything that can give the AI enough context so that it can explain shifts in the data better, then it can give you a more credible report. Here's an example for you. And then optional, but recommended, you can have it paste the last week's report. You can actually paste last week's report here so that the AI can measure follow through precisely instead of if inferring it from the trend data alone. The next part is the aggregate data to pull. It's going to pull all of this data from the GoCSM MCP, segmentation lenses. It's going to slice every finding in the following ways. So it's going to slice it by plan tier, by account age, or what stage your client is in, by feature adoption, by revenue band. So the top 10 accounts by revenue versus the long tail, like where is the risk most concentrated? And then the CSMs assigned to the accounts. So is the risk being concentrated on a specific CSM? The analysis period, primary window last 7 days versus the previous 7 days. Trend context, trailing 4 weeks. Again, super simple stuff. And then what makes a finding systemic? It's going to report these, filter out the noise, and try to give you a report that is to the point, things that you absolutely need to see. Feel free to read this. I definitely don't want to make this video too long by reading every word, but ultimately it's checking for systemic issues and trend patterns across your portfolio. And then finally, your reporting structure is going to give you an executive paragraph here, 3 to 5 sentences, week over week health breakdown, revenue exposure. So where is the risk concentrated? How is the revenue moving? And then intervention follow through for each systemic issue that it finds. It's going to give you essentially a plan of action. And then finally, at the end, you have the report structure template. You can review this, you can change it. You don't have to worry about changing the value that's in the square brackets here. This is just an example reporting structure for the AI to follow. So feel free to change any of this to your agency's business model or leave it as it is and just fill out some of the values in the square brackets. Now, the other reports I want to show you that are super meaningful are the onboarding activation report. This is going to be a report that shows and identifies systemic and client level issues inside for clients who are inside of the onboarding stage. Onboarding is super important. Every agency owner knows if there's smooth onboarding, meaning that the client understands everything, they start using the platform right away, they start getting value out of it right away, retention increases by tenfold. And so this report, I suggest setting it on a weekly schedule. I suggest having both your CSD and your CSMs reviewing this report to make sure that you identify issues during onboarding, during your onboarding process on one side, and also identifying clients who are at risk, who are still in that first 15, 30, 45 days, whatever your agency considers the onboarding process. Expansion and upsell report. I highly suggest running this at least once a week. If it's too much, you can run it twice a month, once every 2 weeks. This one is going to analyze the GoCSM data as well as your agency's data to identify clients who are primed for an upsell. You can change the signals that are the expansion signals that you want the AI agent to watch for. Feel free to edit any of this. Feel free to just copy and paste it and change all the values in the square brackets. But ultimately, you want this prompt to direct the AI agent to make sure that it's watching for signals that you would consider primed for an upsell. So if a client is showing that all of a sudden their wallet spend went up like 2 times by 200%, or their booked appointments just went up by a drastic amount, these are all indicators that your client is making more money, they're getting a lot more value, and they might be primed for an upsell. And you can have this report And you should have this report be reviewed by whoever the closer inside of your company is, or whoever the account manager or the sales director or the person that sold that client is. So your sales director can receive this report, review it, and then assign the different clients that are primed for an upsell to the individual sales reps. Or if you're a one-person show still, and you're an owner and you're still doing all the sales, you can just look at the top three um, clients that this report gives you and just right away send them a message and try to book a call with them. And the easiest way to do this is to send a message and say, hey, I noticed that you've booked a ton more appointments this month. I wanted to congratulate you. I actually see an opportunity for you to get even more value out of the CRM or out of our service. When are you available for 5 minutes, or do you have time on Tuesday at 2 p.m. for a quick call? And then finally, the feature adoption report. This report is going to pull a feature adoption campaign report, essentially, and it's looking at these core areas. You're going to define your most important features. So this one is a CSD level report. I highly recommend running it once a week, or at least once a month at the very least, ideally twice a month. In a perfect world, if you have the time, once a week, to understand how is adoption, product adoption, being driven across your entire agency. So under the core features, you're going to select what your core features are. So for most agencies, 99% of agencies, one of the top core features is contacts. You're expecting your agencies, your clients, to actually add more leads, to generate leads, to add their contacts, to import their contacts when they first start with you. So typically, feature one is going to be contacts. Feature two can be anything else. It can be workflows, it can be calendars, it can be conversations. Again, conversations is one of the most popular features within a CRM, especially if you're offering a CRM. You're expecting your clients to be checking for new messages, responding to leads, so forth, so forth. So you can add conversations. And then whatever other features are super important to you in terms of usage. This is in terms of adoption and usage. So if you do a lot of this work for your clients, GoCSM can still pull. If you don't expect your clients to create workflows, you're still expecting those workflows to execute that you've created. So you can still add workflows in here to understand how is workflow execution declining or increasing across your entire agency, to be able to spot systemic issues and patterns that you'll later be able to address. The step order is for each of those features. It's going to pull certain tools from within the MCP to find out who's not using it. If these are core features, you should be expecting all of your clients to use it. If you're expecting clients on a certain plan to use these features versus clients on a different plan to use different features, you can always define this in the prompt. So under the 4 core features, you can give it a little bit more context to explain. You have a context field here. Again, enter the context. Adoption solutions available. If you want the AI to actually give you suggestions on groups of clients, for example, for these 5 clients that aren't using the conversations tab, list what solutions you already have. So if you have a knowledge base, if you have mini courses, if you have videos that you've created, whether they're in your knowledge base or on YouTube, paste all of this here, give it access so that it can say, for this group of clients that are not using this feature, I recommend sending them this knowledge panel article or this mini course that you've created for them. On the next part, you get to define your under adoption definitions. So what does it mean for a feature to be under adopted? This is where you define this. Here you define the date period for the report. You can change this from 14 to 28 days to 7 days. And finally, you have the reporting structure. For each of these 4 features, current adoption level, how many accounts are in the gap, and the usage trend. This should be a very quick, to the point report. did last week's routing work. So the accounts that you actually nudged, were they activated? Did they start using that feature or not? The one feature to prioritize this week. So which one feature is in the red? And then per feature, the recommended systemic solution. And here it's going to say for feature 1, this is the trend, accounts using it, last week's nudge result, and recommended solution. Feature 2, same thing, and it's going to repeat it for feature 3 and feature 4. So this is it. It's been about not even 30 minutes since I started this. It For you to be able to launch your daily CSM report and weekly CSD report, it'll take you maybe 30 to 35 minutes to just update all the information on the prompt, all the values in the square brackets. And then just like I showed, you schedule it, you add it as a scheduled task to your AI agent, regardless of which one that is, as long as you're able to connect the GoCSM MCP. And then you get reports on your agency, on your product adoption, your upsell clients, your struggling clients, all of this delivered to you. So you don't have to run these reports manually anymore. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next training.